What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Finding Hope podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Bundy. Happy Wednesday. I hope you are having an incredible day, an incredible week, and that this episode is going to leave you feeling more hopeful, more strengthened, and equipped to walk out life in the absolute fullest way. If you guys listened to the latest episode, it was all about holistic living and kind of giving us a brief deep dive into what that is. And so for today's episode, it's going to be a little bit more action-based and break down more of an understanding as to things to look out for in nutrition labels, where to get your food, things to incorporate to keep it more stripped down and basic and be able to really achieve longevity and live each day to the absolute best. I always say that my goal actually isn't to live until I'm a million years old. My goal is to just live every single day as the healthiest version of myself, mind, body, soul. And so I hope you guys feel like you can do that by the time you are done listening to this episode. I want you to just take a deep breath and understand that food is so beautiful and it is such a good thing. And if you're a woman, even if you're a man, but I feel like a lot of women, it's normal to have unhealthy relationships with food. And I totally understand that. And I know that when it comes to what we put in our bodies, it can feel like this relationship doesn't feel good. And either there's an obsession over food or food can feel like an enemy. And I just want you to relax and realize that God cares so much about what you put inside of you. And He literally created our bodies to absorb food and nutrients. And He's given us absolutely crystal clear instruction as to what that is and how to find joy in it, how food can actually be what bonds us to one another and doesn't separate us from one another, and how it can be such a way to unite. And so when I speak about food today and just nutrition and all of that in general, know that it actually starts with your mind. And even if you do everything quote unquote right, kind of like we talked about in the last episode, it really has to be a mindset. And I want to encourage you to be able to get to a place where you view the things that you're putting into your body as good, as godly, as worship, as a means to build deeper connections with yourself, with God, and with one another. Let's get into the 5 ways to start living a holistic, more simplistic lifestyle that reflects scripture and reflects the heart of God. Romans is such a good book of just telling how we should look at food and what we should put in our bodies. And it is a little aggressive, it's a little intense, so just bear with me. But I think the reason that it is so intense is because God does view it as important. And as His people, I know food is talked about so much in the Bible because it's something God cares a lot about. This verse I want to read in Romans, it's 14 verse 2. We're going to actually be in Romans 14 a lot today because basically the entire chapter is about food. And it says, one person's faith allows them to eat anything, but another whose faith is weak eats only vegetables. The one who eats everything must not treat with contempt the one who does not. And the one who does not eat everything must not judge the one who does, for God has accepted them. Okay, there's a lot there that I feel like we need to unpack. First of all, it's crazy that it says One person's faith allows them to eat anything, but another, whose faith is weak, eats only vegetables. I'm not out here to come for vegetarians or vegans or anything like that. God did label food as clean. He said meat was clean. He said animal products was clean. Encouraged his people to eat meat and to have things besides just vegetables. And I think it's so interesting that he actually compares only eating vegetables with having a weak faith. And I would really think on that, because when I've been in times in my life where I've been restrictive for the wrong reasons, it is honestly a lack of faith. And the more I restrict and the more I control from a place of fear and not from a place of faith, the more I really do notice I'm actually trying to control more of my life and take that control away from God. And it can start with food, and it can start with restricting. And whether that's meat, whether it is vegetables, whether it's carbs, whatever it is, I think when we restrict from a place of fear and wanting to control other areas in our life, it really is a mirror back at a lack of faith. And not in a condemning way whatsoever, because it goes right on to say, whether you are the one that eats everything or whether you're the one that doesn't, it is not for us to judge. It's not for us to condemn. It's not for us to point a finger, because God has accepted that. But I do want to emphasize that how we choose to eat does matter to God. And also how we choose to eat is between us and God. And I think there's a big difference of educating versus pointing a finger and saying that's wrong and you should feel bad about it. And I know that whether it's a healthy lifestyle or an unhealthy lifestyle, I noticed a huge shift where no one ever pointed a finger at me and criticized the way that I ate when I was eating processed foods, when I was eating a ton of sugar, when my diet was pretty horrible and super unhealthy, and I was eating dessert for dinner. People actually encouraged me in that and praised me in that and loved that I ate all of these things or whatever I wanted. But then the second I started only eating organic, I cut out refined sugars, I stopped eating processed foods, again, not from a place of fear, from a place of faith. I just made a big shift in my lifestyle in terms of what I put into my body. And I did it in a way of worship and a way to reflect the Lord. I noticed so many people started criticizing me for how I ate. And I can't believe you're restricting that. I can't believe you're not eating that. I just want to say that right here in this verse, we really aren't called, whether we agree with that or not, whether we're eating well, whether we're not. Never should we be pointing fingers and saying, you are wrong for what you're doing and you should feel bad about what you're doing. I think education and encouragement and saying, hey, I think this way is actually super helpful and beneficial is great. But when people start criticizing you, that's when I just wouldn't recommend. Jumping down, it says this entire thing is talking about food. And in verse 13, we're in chapter 14 for reference. It says, therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of a brother or sister. Jumping down to 15. If your brother or sister is distressed because of what you eat, you are no longer acting in love. Do not by your eating destroy someone for whom Christ died. Oh my gosh. So, you guys, this chapter is just full of the importance of food, what we're eating, how we're thinking of others, what we're eating in front of others, what we're drinking in front of others. Like, it is intense, but I think there's a reason that there's such an intensity. And I can't, it's just crazy. Do not, by your eating, destroy someone for whom Christ died. I think that hits on so many levels. I know I can easily become a way worse version of myself based on the foods I eat. My family knows, the people close to me know that when what fills my body is absolute trash, I I really become a totally different representation of the Lord. And a big reason why I am so passionate about what we put in our bodies is because if you look at the research, if you look at the science, if you follow the studies that have been done, certain foods that we get to intake and that we get to enjoy truly change the chemistry in our brain and give our brain the right nutrients it needs to process things, to think about things, to respond to things, to absorb information, to remember, to act with love, to act with patience. And it's literally all intertwined and it's all linked. And when I am not giving my body the nutrients it needs for my brain to operate in the ways God created, for my physical body to operate in the ways God created, when I can't move, when I'm injured, when I am covered in acne, whatever it is that I'm experiencing because of what I'm putting in my body, it really, I can totally see how it plays out to destroy someone for whom Christ died. Because my patience is thinner, my aggression is stronger, my ability to process is a little bit messed up. When you start noticing the foods that God did not intend for us to be consuming, you start having those withdrawals and you can start feeling these intense emotions. And it's crazy because I think so many of us are addicted to foods and so reliant on foods, and food can become like a god to us because we turn to that for a coping mechanism, or we turn to a beverage for a way to calm us down and to process. And we can find comfort, security, control, stability in what we're consuming. I think this verse is just so convicting to say, hey, if you need those things, that can actually be a stumbling block. And if you deprive yourself of the foods that you need to be able to function in the ways we were created, that's also a huge way to become a stumbling block. And right after that, in verse 16, it says, therefore, do not let what you know is good be spoken of as evil. Hence, this episode. Oh my gosh, you guys, I cannot encourage you enough to do your own research, because when you know what is good and what can literally transform your entire life, it's impossible not to want to share it. I love that it says, therefore, do not let what you know is good be spoken of as evil. Like I said earlier, the amount of people that speak about the way I eat as evil and as bad and criticize, and because I take care of my body, it's all of a sudden this bad thing that people want to judge and point a finger at and say, I'm way too restricted, I'm way too this, I'm all of these things. Again, it does come down to the heart, because if you are restrictive from a place of fear and from a place of wanting more control in your life, that is so different. I do not feel restricted in any way, shape, or form. I actually feel so free. And food excites me. It brings me an immense amount of joy. I absolutely light up when I'm able to talk about what I'm putting in my body, why I'm putting it in my body, all of the benefits there are. And food can actually be just such a joy when you realize and learn everything it does for you. And instead of just eating strawberries or blueberries and thinking, oh, it's a yummy fruit, being able to eat them and know, oh, I'm filling my body with antioxidants, and I'm filling my body with things that are good for my brain, things that are good for anti-aging, things that are good for a list of different things. It makes you feel so excited about what you get to eat. And it doesn't feel restrictive. It actually feels so full and so abundant, because when you actually look at all the things that God has given us on this earth to eat and what they do for our bodies, it is endless the amounts of foods that you get to enjoy that literally are like adding superpowers to yourself. So, number one is really just understanding that God cares about what we eat. It is important to Him. And He also cares how we view and talk about what others eat. And that also is me preaching to myself, because I know, as excited as I can get about food, I can also get a little too critical when I see some of the things that the people I love the most eat. And although I am coming from a place of love, if you're listening to this and you're like, Kayla, you can be so critical of me, I am so sorry. I'm coming from a place of love. And this verse is definitely convicting as well, because it really isn't my place. I think it's always important to educate and to, like it said, don't let things that are good be spoken of as evil. But at the end of the day, and Lindsay said this so well in the last episode, it has to be between you and the Lord. The second thing is eating organic. I think that's so important. I think just as a basic, eat organic as much as possible. Obviously, not everywhere is going to have a ton of organic produce. I know where I grew up, it's almost impossible to find organic produce, but it is so important just for health and environmental benefits. All the things that it's sprayed with and then you're consuming, and all the toxins that are living in your body. And I heard somebody say on a podcast one time, well, a vegetable is a vegetable. And oh my gosh, that's just so not true. And I always feel so bad when people are making such an effort and they're eating vegetables, they're eating the fruits, thinking they're getting all this, yet it's literally covered in toxins and chemicals and pesticides. And inside of it, it's been manipulated by all of these GMOs, and they're eating it thinking this is a great thing, yet they're adding so many toxins to their body at the same time. The third thing is to avoid processed foods and sugars. I think that's just so important, and it's a lot easier than you think. It feels overwhelming at first, but really, like, a lot of snack food, packaged foods are not the best for us, I think, unless it's nuts or things like that that are coming in a package that are maybe on the shelf. I would really try to stick to the fruits, the vegetables, the meats, the cheese, raw dairy for sure, not processed dairy, raw dairy. Or if you're not doing that, making your own nut milks. Things like that are just so important to eliminate the process, because within processed foods, there are so many things that are just straight up poison for us and that really mess with our gut health, and our gut and our brain are connected. And so when our gut is unhealthy, our brain is unhealthy. And if our gut isn't able to digest, our mind isn't really able to process. And so the goal is to always keep things more in alignment. A really good and easy way to sort of identify what things to buy and what things not to buy. I started doing this. I still do it, but I was really big into this when I first started living a holistic lifestyle and really adopting that and researching and learning a bunch. I would not buy anything that I couldn't pronounce the ingredient. And granted, there's some superfoods that are super weird and hard to pronounce as well, so ignore that. But if you're just starting out, I think it's so good to just, if you can't pronounce that, you shouldn't be eating it. And there's so many gums and gargums and weird sulfates and different fillers in so much of the food out there in the grocery stores. So if you do not recognize that ingredient, if it seems foreign to you, if in a ketchup bottle the ingredients are more than tomatoes and seasoning, it's probably not one you should buy. And I know it sounds basic, but if you were to look at any condiments and ketchup, there's cane sugar, there's natural flavors, there's weird oils, there's weird fillers. And all of those things feel so normal because they're in everything in the store for the most part. But really, it's creating a lot of buildup in our bodies that just put a big load on our whole system. As much as you can, I would encourage you to just try to read all the labels and identify if you can pronounce it or not, or even just become aware of the amount of ingredients that are in some foods. And it's crazy. I've seen some chocolate covered nuts or something, and I turn it over and the ingredient label has like 15 ingredients, and it's just chocolate covered nuts. It should be nuts and cacao and a sweetener, and that's it. And the amount of ingredients is crazy. So just kind of be aware of that. And I think that's a great first step into just looking at what you're even putting in your body and even being aware of what you're putting in your body. Number 4 is natural living. So how to incorporate natural living starts by doing more natural remedies than over-the-counter stuff. Same thing with the ingredient labels. If you do not understand the ingredients that are in the pills or the gummies or the vitamins that you're getting, maybe just proceed with caution. Also knowing where your supplements are coming from, but definitely taking the supplements, knowing where your body is deficient, understanding what you're eating and where you need more nutrients, and then from there being able to know what things you should incorporate. I personally take vitamin C and a probiotic and aloe vera every single day. I won't go a day without it. It helps for so many things, and there's a lot more that I really should take every day, but those are my absolute top 3 that I refuse not to take. And so definitely, if you're going to start with anything, I would start with a probiotic. Get yourself a good probiotic. It will be so good for your gut health, for your brain, for every single function of the body practically. And by incorporating natural remedies, it prevents a lot of sicknesses, illnesses, scenarios that would require the non-natural stuff and would require the surgeries or the medications, the prescriptions, all of that. And so I'm a big proponent of finding natural ways to do things, and even talking to your doctors about that when they want to put you on a pill, when they want to do something, just asking like, well, what are the natural ways I could do this? Do I incorporate certain types of movement? Do I incorporate certain foods into my diet? Do I take out certain foods? Especially when it comes to things like diabetes and sicknesses that happen in your brain. A lot of that is because of our food. And a lot of those diseases are linked to the amounts of sugar that we put into our bodies. And so there's a lot of really cool natural ways to replace things and to add things and to incorporate different homeopathic medicines instead of going to a quick fix that's going to put a band-aid on it and not actually solve what's going on. The 5th thing that I think is so important into living more holistically, reducing inflammation in your body, not being held back by food, but being able to connect with food. And this one is a big trendy topic. However, it's one you should listen to even though it's trendy. I know sometimes when things get really trendy, it feels like a fad, but this is something that has been avoided for years and years and years and generations, and it's only newer to us now. But seed oils. I am so not a fan of seed oils. They are so inflammatory. They can cause so many issues in our digestive tract, in our brain, all of these things. They're really hard for us to digest, and there's absolutely no nutritional benefit. If you don't know what seed oils are, you can look them up. But basically, the safe oils are olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Those are like kind of the three main ones that are safe. Butter is also totally fine. But yeah, no canola oil, no sunflower oil, no sapphire oil, no peanut oil. There's so many out there. So definitely try to eliminate those if you want to operate maybe a little bit better than you are right now. I think too, just another like tip is to cook your meals at home. I literally never eat out. I maybe eat out twice a month, if that. And if I do eat out, it's going to the healthiest place that I can find. I love knowing what's in my food. I love knowing what I'm putting in my body. I love knowing how it's helping my body. I love knowing that food is literally medicine. And every single day, I have an opportunity to fuel my body with things that are going to energize me, wake me up, are going to give me anti-aging properties, are going to be full of antioxidants, are going to help detoxify me, are going to build muscle, are going to help heal my gut, are going to fuel my mind and improve my eyesight and improve my skin, improve my ability to recover from workouts, all of these things. It's just so cool every day you get to wake up with such an opportunity of what you're going to put into your body and getting to experience all the benefits from it. So I love how much food is just such a tool. And not only does it make us better humans, but it also is such a way to connect. I love how in the Bible it talks so much about breaking bread together and the importance of eating with one another and sharing a meal and preparing food together. And it is so beautiful. And some of my favorite memories are literally having dinner or a brunch with people I love, where we have prepared the food, where we know all of the richness that we are about to put into our bodies based on what we've chosen to include and the nutrients that it's filled with and the benefits, and experience just the fullness and the richness that comes with it. Also, if you guys need a little bit more insight as to what to do, what things are okay, what things aren't, you can always message me on the Finding Hope podcast on Instagram, but also there's so many incredible resources out there. I know if you are new to this, even if you're not new to this, typing in podcast, anything that has to do with holistic living, nutrition, organic lifestyle, things like that, you're going to get a lot of really good information and you're going to learn a lot. And I think knowledge is key. It's pointless to choose to eat a certain way if you don't understand why you're eating that way. And that's probably not going to serve you very well. And you're probably going to get a little discouraged and a little tired of it. So I would really encourage you to actually do your research and learn what things to swap. For instance, when I cut refined sugars, I use honey, I use maple syrup, I use dates, I use coconut sugar. Those are things I absolutely love. And they are actually filled with so many benefits. And so whatever you are taking away, there's always something you can replace it with that's so much richer and so much better for you and tastes so much better. And so if you are new, if you are a little overwhelmed, just literally get on social media and type in anything with holistic living or natural remedies, natural medicine. Or if you're having headaches, literally just type in how to heal headaches naturally or how to get rid of bloating naturally, how to deal with depression naturally. There's so many resources out there and so much information. So if you need kind of someone to hold your hand through it, that is why we have the internet, and it's amazing. And if you need kind of a guideline into where to look, anything holistic is great. If that's in the title, it's usually pretty trustworthy. anything that talks about natural ways of doing things, natural remedies, homeopathics, natural medicine doctors, integrative medicine doctors. Those are all great resources. And thankfully, because it seems like our phones listen to every single thing we talk about, once we start researching this stuff, I guarantee some videos will be popping up in your algorithm that are aligned with this, and you'll probably discover more people. So there's always that. But I love you guys. I know this was a little bit more educational, I guess, and more on the food side of things. But I hope this was helpful to just sort of give you more action steps based on our last episode of actually incorporating more of a holistic lifestyle, specifically in nutrition, and what things to kind of look out for. And also, I would really encourage you to research just maybe the foods you currently love and look up the benefits. If you love certain fruits, look up the benefits of them. I'm excited for you guys to all strengthen your faith in what you eat and feeling good about it and feeling like you know what you're actually putting in your body and it's not a mystery, and you know why you're feeling a certain way. You know why you're tired. You know why you're energized. You know why your brain feels foggy. You know why your brain feels clear. I'm just so excited for you guys to explore that route and get to experience those things. I love you all. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.